which now brings me to our main slot of the evening. So we've got Tim Butler waiting in the wings. He is, I think he's senior engineer. Hopefully I've got that right, at Kinetics, which is a server company based in Brisbane. And they service New Zealand, Australia, some of the Pacific and Lower Asian Rim, and really sort of focusing in on people that have got sites in this area of the world. Some real benefits of that as well too, because people don't have to go from Australia or New Zealand over to the US to go and get to the server and then have the information sent back again. So it's got some advantages in terms of the time that people take to load your site. So it gives you some performance advantages, but more than that, there's a whole lot more inside the hosting toolkit, which Tim's going to talk with us about now. But Tim and I have known each other since, or at various WordCamps, and this is the first time I think we've seen each other probably in a good sort of 24 months, if not a wee bit longer, because WordCamps aren't happening. For those that haven't heard of WordCamps, they are WordPress meetups for, well, they're conferences really, like 2-day conferences generally, for users of WordPress. So if you're building a WordPress site or you're novice to it, if you run on WordPress, or you're a developer or designer, or you're working on SEO or marketing, brings together all of these sorts of people, and there's a whole range of experience and expertise from the absolute novice through to those that are employed by the company that manages and maintains WordPress. So pretty amazing group of people when you turn up at that. But we haven't been able to have that. So Tim and I have not had a coffee or a beer together for about 2 years. So it's good to have you on tonight, Tim. It was originally going to be Jarman, who's the CEO of the company, but he realised today that he had his daughter's formal tonight. So he thought that he better go along to the formal, otherwise he'd be out of favour with his family and his daughter. So he's pulled Tim in last minute to come and speak with us tonight. But fortunately, Tim is a better speaker than Jarman, so you've actually got the best of it tonight. So welcome along tonight, Tim.
No worries. Thank you very much, Nick. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen here. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that up on their screen.
Looking good here.
Excellent. So just a very quick sort of who am I? So I'm, as Nick sort of introduced, Tim Butler from Kinetics. My role sort of varies, but basically look after all the servers and sort of infrastructure and sort of software platforms. So my job's to keep things running. And in that sort of vein, obviously Jamin was meant to be here to present tonight. So Jamin, our CEO, sort of takes care of a lot of the sales and sort of most of the presentations, and then hands it off for somebody to actually make things work. So that's generally my sort of role. So obviously we don't have Jamin here tonight. So we're going to go through the WordPress toolkit, as well as a few other little bits around WordPress and around sort of hosting environments as well. So the 3 basics we're going to cover is, what is the toolkit? How can I use it? And what can it do for my business? So I'll try and keep things sort of fairly business focused here tonight, and sort of run through from a business perspective what you can use and how you can use this toolkit. So the very, very first thing is, what is this WordPress toolkit? Basically, it's an integrated toolkit specifically for WordPress, which offers advanced tools to manage WordPress from within your hosting environment. And we'll go through how that works and run through quite a number of examples quickly through tonight. So originally it started just for Plesk-based environments, but it's now also in cPanel. So Plesk and cPanel are your hosting control panel systems. So generally for a lot of hosting environments, when you log into the platform and sort of see that web interface where you manage your website and emails and bits and pieces, in a lot of instances that's cPanel, and depending on your hosting environment, that can be Plesk as well, or it could be something that's custom written for that particular host. So quick, what does it actually provide? So we've got a toolkit that provides a number of different things, and this is what we're going to run through quickly tonight to sort of show you. For WordPress, this WordPress toolkit obviously covers our installation, managing your WordPress sort of environment, helps with migrating your website, helps with updates, helps with security, and also cloning and staging. And we'll go through what that sort of means and what it can do for you in our sort of demonstrations. So, but first, just wanted to leave 3 sort of takeaway items here for tonight. And if, you know, obviously, if you're picking up things on how to use out of the toolkit, but from your WordPress-based hosting, no matter whether you have the toolkit or not, we just want 3 things that, you know, I think are quite critical for a business. So it's who's managing the backups for your website. Is your web hosting provider actually providing backups? Are you paying a developer to manage these? Do you manage them? Do you manage them yourself? So it's really, really important to make sure that you've got a backup of your website and that you know where a copy is, that you can retrieve it as required. So the second part is, if you've used a WordPress website before, there's lots of updates. So WordPress itself gets updated, your plugins get updated, your themes get updated. So who's managing the updates for your website? Like if you're running Windows, for example, you know, you must keep it up to date to keep your site secure. So if you're not sure who's sort of doing your updates, make sure if you've got a developer, check with them whether they're doing it. If you've got a managed WordPress hosting environment, they should be doing it for it. But if nobody's sort of doing it, then you probably need to start doing this yourself. And lastly, this is probably one of the areas where we're seeing being hacked, websites are being hacked recently, is who's got access to your website. We've seen, obviously, and you know, like most business owners, you use a developer to change one bit on your website and then you go on to a different developer or they've moved on and not available. But the login hasn't been sort of closed off. So just a reminder, just to have a look to see who's actually got access to your website. And we can quickly go through, you know, how you can easily sort of check who's got administrator access to your website as well. So tonight I'm going to make it fairly hands-on in terms of just showing you actually through the toolkits. So what we'll do is basically going to install WordPress. We're going to install the plugin, update plugins, fix a broken site, secure WordPress, and sort of show you some of the security tools there. Run through what they call smart updates within the WordPress toolkit. We're going to clone a site to staging. So cloning a site is taking a copy of it. And in most sort of development terms, a staging site is where you want to make changes but not affect your live site. We're going to run through a very quick backup, and we're also going to then copy any changes we've made back from staging to live. Okay. So just confirming everyone can see my screen there still. So this is Plesk. So Plesk is a hosting control panel. And basically for tonight, I've just got a test little website that we're going to run through. And what we're going to do is just open up the WordPress Toolkit. So as we sort of look around, the WordPress Toolkit is I guess a number of tools all rolled into one control panel. So from here, we can sort of see the title of the website. We can see what version of WordPress we're running. We can see plugins. We can see that, you know, we've got plugin updates to run, themes, security, what version of PHP, which is the programming language behind what runs WordPress, plus a number of other tools that we can sort of leverage and sort of build off there. So this is a pre-existing website. So just to show you how easy it is to install a WordPress website. So we're just going to hit install. We're going to choose where we want to install this website. So we've just got a demo site, the Kinetics demo.site. At the moment, there's no website there whatsoever. So we can just create a WordPress website, and we can call it whatever we want, basically. So there's a number of different options. We need to create a WordPress administrator. So this is the username and sort of details that you'd log into the website with. You can customize names and go through all those sort of details, but for now, we're just going to hit install. So this pops up, and we can sort of see, if I bring up the detailed progress, is basically from here, it's actually downloaded a copy of WordPress from wordpress.org, unpacked the files for you. It's created the database. It's running through that base installation and sort of starting the base configuration, and then doing some final configurations to sort of have the website available for you. So previously, you'd either have to ask your hosting provider to do that, or there'd be sort of built-in sort of hosting tools to manage some of that. but most of them were a little bit clunky or sort of weren't as seamless as that. So we can see installation complete. It's popped up and asks if, you know, we want to take a minute to set up plugins or bits and pieces. So just for now, I'm just going to hit no thanks. So just to show you that it's been set up, we can see the Kinetics demo.site, and I can just open that in a browser. And here, of course, is our sort of, you know, base sort of WordPress instance. And we get our standard Hello World sort of WordPress website. So next on our list, we're going to go through and just install a plugin. So obviously you can do this from within WordPress itself, but where this can come in handy is when you're having certain issues, or you've got a certain way that you install, say like 7 or 8 different plugins for each site that you build. So within the WordPress Toolkit, each WordPress website comes up in its own panel. We can simply go to plugins. All we have to do is click install. And we've hit an error. Okay, let me just go back into here. I'll skip that demo for now because I've made a change last minute and broke one of our test environments. Within the test toolkit here, basically within the plugin area, we can see we've got existing plugins sort of installed. So generally you can click install to install a new WordPress plugin, and that will pop up a list and ask you what would you like to install. What it also sort of shows us is whether these plugins are installed and have updates available. So if you can see on the screen, our test instance, we're running W3 Total Cache, and it's telling us we've actually got an update available. So there's 2 ways we can run the updates. Obviously you can do that within WordPress itself. You can also now, with the latest version of WordPress, enable auto updates. So the WordPress Toolkit takes advantage of that as well, is you can actually just tick auto update and that will update in the background for you. The disadvantages there is, say you're running WooCommerce, running a store, you can run into issues where, say the plugin you know, updates your store and people can no longer check out. So even though the plugin worked, you've still got issues sort of to deal with in the background there. This is where, and within, it's a paid plugin, so it's not included for free on most hosting environments, but depending on the package you buy, the WordPress Toolkit has what they call smart updates. So I'm just going to tick our little slider here that enables smart updates. So if I now hit my check updates slider here, you can see it's come across. It's told me I've got 1 plugin out of date. So I can actually go and hit this update button here. And it's going to perform a smart update. Now, what it means by a smart update versus just standard WordPress where you go and click install, it's actually taking a copy of this website to run those updates on. So if you've experienced issues before where you've run an update on WordPress and it's broken your entire site and you've hit that sort of panic stage, this takes a copy of the site. It will actually then analyze your website before it makes a change, analyze your website after it's made the change, and give you the option to compare. So the automatic updates will do this in the background for you. And if it hasn't found any issues, it will automatically apply those changes for you. Obviously, if it hits issues, you'll actually just get an email to say, hey, we saw a difference in the website as we were trying to do an update. You need to manually go through and run this update to see what's going on. So as it's sort of cloning in the background, basically this should come up in a second and we should see it sort of compare the 2 websites. Obviously live demos, everything runs slower than it normally takes, but basically it's taken even a complete copy of your database and files and everything. So everything that's attached to your website, and generally this will run automatically. So we should see it come up. It normally doesn't take too long, just depending on how much it's had to copy. So probably just to compare, well, while that's running, is there's normally 3 different ways from a WordPress sort of instance where updates are run. So it's either you run them yourself, you use a tool to run the updates for you, such as Managed WP or one of the other sort of third-party providers, or it could be WP Engine or a managed WordPress provider where they run the updates, or it's the case of you running the tools yourself. So as it's going through now, it's actually analyzing the website. So what it'll actually do is pick a number of web pages on your site and actually compare the two. And we'll see, because we're running this manually, it gives us the option to compare and see how that works as well. So you can see now it's created a copy, it's analyzed the site. We're now updating the website. So it's basically applying that patch that we're doing, which is of course just a little plugin change. But if it's a major change, then obviously we could see some drastic sort of results within there. And now it's doing that analysis of your website. So it's got a copy to compare back to what it was originally. And that should finish up shortly. So the advantage here is, of course, because it's taking a copy of your site, if say the plugin actually made a detrimental change to your website, that's not going to affect your live website. So your live website is running in the background, not being affected whatsoever by these updates. So as you can see, it's come up, so it's in its comparison mode. So because we've run it manually, it gives us the option to compare. So we've got this little slider here where we're actually looking at, if you've been familiar with some of the image sliders like this, before and after. So we can also then click on the before and after, so we can see, what's going on our website. Has it changed? Does it look the same? It's given us some information in terms of, it's come back with the right response code. It hasn't got any additional PHP errors. So in a normal instance, this update would run in the background and apply automatically for you. If say you had an issue, you would get this comparison sort of view that you can have a look at. So you can see different pages. So I've got just a couple of sample pages. So it's got a comparison there. We can see it's obviously pixel perfect. So we can just apply those updates and it will apply the updates to the website for us. So it's a very neat way of being able to manage your WordPress website yourself rather than having to pay somebody to do it, but still having some protection there in the background to not break your sort of live website. Okay, so fixing a broken site. So what I'm going to do very quickly here, and this isn't one to copy, but basically our little test site here, what we're going to do is just go into a plugin. So I've got Contact Form 7 installed, which just before I do this, sorry, I'm just going to go back to this site and just make sure I've got it turned on within our plugins. So what I'm doing here is basically introducing an error that shouldn't be there. And the reason I'm doing this is to show what happens when, if you don't have it managed, if an error occurs on your site. So what I can do is just quickly open, so we can see our test demo site, everything's looking fine. And what we see is sometimes where a theme has been updated or a plugin has been updated and it's no longer compatible with your website. So I'm just going to change Contact Form 7 here and just going to put some broken code in. So this is some bad PHP coding as I guess a bad example. And if I drop back to our site here, we can see you get that error message of, there has been a critical error on your website. So this is where a lot of businesses, they've hit the update button, updated 30 plugins, and boom, sort of their website is down. So it's the, what do I do next? So within our hosting environment, what I'm going to do is just within our test site here, because I know to look at the logs, I'm just going to have a quick look at the logs. And we can see this error message down the bottom where we go, aha, it can't parse some of the PHP within the Contact Form 7. So because you can obviously see, from our WordPress website, I can't actually gain access because it's broken. So what I can actually do is drop back to our WordPress Toolkit for our test site. I'm going to go to plugins. And I can actually turn this plugin off directly from the toolkit. So instead of the whole website being down, just because a contact form is broken or one little bit, I've just turned that contact form off. And if I go back to our WordPress website here, we can just hit reload and you can see the website is working again. So it's a very quick get out of trouble so that you can go and look at what the error is in detail and therefore have your website back up and going. Okay, so now that we've known, a very quick way of how to fix our sort of broken website, securing our website. So within the WordPress Toolkit, there are a number of options, but the two biggest ones to take away is keep your WordPress website up to date and make sure you've got a unique complex password for your WordPress login. So what I mean by unique is make sure that password that you're using is only used on this site. Where a lot of people have their website hacked into is because they've used the same password for dozens of different websites and somebody else's website gets hacked into. Well, what the hackers do is they can get access to some of those databases then, and they've got your email address and a password, and they'll go and then try those against multiple different things. So if your login was admin at Kinetics demo.site, they know instantly that they can go and test that login against Kinetics demo.site. So if I've used the same password there and they've got a copy of one password and it's the same, they can log into other areas as well. So this is a common thing, obviously, that you should be implementing for, like your online banking and all of the information that you want to keep secure. A very easy way there to do it, and it's probably a topic in itself, but a password manager. So using a system that saves the passwords for you, that way all you need is one master password to log into your password manager, and you've got secure access then to all of your websites. So within the toolkit itself, there's a number of other options you can go through to lock down these areas within WordPress itself. Now, before I sort of show you the list, there are quite a few options that Plesk and cPanel provide, but not all of them are necessarily good. Not all of them are necessarily compatible with your website. So as I bring up the list here, it's going to suggest a number of things to me, but also give me the option to see information. So things like forbidding the execution of PHP scripts within the WP includes directory. As we hover over it, it gives a little bit of information there. So some of this won't be terribly meaningful and it looks very complicated. And we're sort of working with Plesk because what I'd like is a very basic one-click keep to lock down your system. And then these sort of further examples can be sort of run through. So there's also then, say, forbid execution of scripts within your WP content uploads directory. It's common for, say, security exploits for your website, if they're able to upload a PHP script. So we've seen it where, say, you've got a contact form on your website and there's an area to upload photos. So say if you're a building consultant and you've got a contact form that says, hey, to get a quote from us, just upload a couple of pictures of the site or plans. If that's not locked down to only allow images, people can upload malicious scripts and therefore call them directly. So what we can do is simply click on that to forbid the execution, or execution being running of those scripts in those areas. So there's all sorts of bits we can turn on. We can block author scans. We can block access to sensitive files. So it sets the file permissions so that it's harder to access. Most of these, and again, it goes back to if you keep your website up to date, most of these aren't required. So these are further mitigations if a plugin is exploited or a theme is exploited, and therefore they can try and use that exploit to gain access to other areas. Some of these lockdowns can sort of harden that sort of area and keep it locked down further so that if you are exploited, it makes it harder to sort of gain access. There's areas like disabling file editing within the WordPress dashboard. So WordPress, you can edit themes and you can edit the files directly. So again, it's another area where we can lock these sort of areas down. So I'm just going to tick 2 of these to apply because I know they're safe and I know I've tested them plenty of times before. We just hit secure. and it will go through and apply these to our website. So I've gone through the smart updates bit already. So cloning a site to staging. So obviously we've shown the worst part about a WordPress website where we can run an update or bits and pieces and then your entire website sort of breaks. Where we want to take that next is to go, well, hey, I want to play around, with my website. But what we find is obviously, most business owners don't want to break their website, and setting up a local development area on your local machine is often quite difficult and cumbersome sort of process as well. So what we can simply do is, so within this test site here, if you see the clone button, we're just going to clone a copy of this site. So clone being copy. So what we're going to do is take a copy, and I'm just going to call this staging. So what it'll do is create this subdomain, and we're just going to hit start. So I can give it a different database name and can go through all those sort of details if I want to take advanced control over what's going on. But for this, we're just going to keep it nice and simple. So it's going to take a copy of our website. It's going to take a copy of the database, set that all up for us. And then it's even going to update the database and the configuration files to point at the new site. So for those familiar with WordPress, normally when you've taken a copy, you've got to go and then hand edit files, run a search and replace, or use a plugin over your database to rewrite those URLs so that everything works. So it's going through, it's copied the files, it's copying the database across. It will then do the configuration change for us. And basically then our website is up and running as a separate copy that has no linkages back to the main copy, other than we're using the same login within our hosting control panel to access it. So what that means is, if I want to try a new theme, if I want to disable plugins, if I want to update plugins, I can go through all of that process on a completely separate copy without any fear whatsoever of breaking our website. It's just on the final steps now of configuring, making the configuration change files. And we should see it pop up in a sec to say it's all complete. Okay, so we've got a copy of our website. So we can see within here now, we've got staging.kinetics demo. So it would be staging dot or development dot or test dot, whatever you've chosen for your domain. So if I open that up, the first thing it's prompting me is we've got a connection issue because we haven't got a valid SSL certificate for our staging site. So just for now, I'm just going to hit proceed. But we can see we've got a copy of our test website. So as I flick between the two, you can see they're absolutely identical other than the URL. But what it means is, if I just go back here, so one of the other bits you can also have integrated within your WordPress toolkit is the ability to log into your website. So because it has control, our staging website, we can hit login. And you can see our WordPress dashboard here right at the main screen. So say, obviously the default colors, and as Nick's sort of shown us, the palette sort of tools that are available, might want to play around on staging rather than affecting my live site. So this is where I can obviously go into customize, start playing with all the different colors of my website, changing it, and hit publish. So as you can see, if I then just go back to the standard URL for our website for staging, you can see the color has changed. If I go back to our live website, which is one more across here. Sorry, I'll just close this one off. Okay, so our test website, if I refresh this, none of the colors, none of the detail has changed. So you've got a completely standalone environment that you can play around with, make those changes. Now, of course, after you've made the changes, you've got two options then to bring your website. Say you want to make those changes now on your live website, there's two approaches to that. And though there is no, I guess, right or wrong approach, the approach to use will depend on how busy your website is, and how many changes you made. So say for this example, I just made one color change. And if I'm running, say, a WooCommerce site, I might want to just reapply those changes to my live website now that I know what to do. But what I'll do is just go back to our staging site here, and we're just going to choose the copy data. So if I've installed new templates or new themes, installed new WordPress websites, made content changes, but there's been no further changes to my live site, what I can actually do is choose to copy that data back. So we can see the location. It's, our source is our staging website. We're going to choose test one, which is where we've got our test data from. And then it gives us the option of what we want to copy. So for this particular instance, we want to copy back files in the database. So it's going to replace everything within there. And you can see the last point here is it's actually going to create an automatic restore point. So if anything goes wrong, we've got an ability to roll that back as well. So just going to hit start on that to run through. So the other way of doing it, and again, it comes down to your sort of how busy your website is. If you're constantly making blog posts, or you've created the staging site and it's now 2 to 3 months out of date from the data, obviously if you copy it back over your live site, you're going to lose all those changes that you've made in between, because it's taking a copy of the database from your staging site. So generally what we find is most people tend to go, I want to play with plugins. I want to try 5 or 6 different ones on my staging environment, figure out which ones work for me, which ones don't, make changes to the theme, work out which one, or changing the theme completely. As it was brought up in one of the earlier points, where a developer said, it's easier to rewrite the theme from scratch. You might want to play around with Elementor and see how that actually affects your website. So you can do all of that on your staging website. You may even throw it away completely. Or you can choose then to reapply just the bits that work to your main site. So you can see now, because it's copied across the files and databases, if I go back to my test website here and hit refresh, we should have our updated color that came across from our staging sort of website. So the only other important bit is, obviously, if you're running staging websites, is you can see, and again, what the WordPress Toolkit provides is a number of things we can turn on and off. Like most things where tools give you lots of different options, if you don't quite know what they mean, then there's probably no need to turn them on and off. All of the defaults out of the box work fairly well. So it's automatically, for our staging website, turned off search engine indexing. So for those that certainly know their SEO, like the WordPress robots.txt, it will be marked so that Google doesn't index accidentally your staging website as well. And backups. So I can see Cameron on the chat tonight. So Cameron will know that one of the things I always push, especially as a systems administrator, is backup, backup, backup. You can't have too many backups of your website because when things go wrong, that's generally when people find out that either the backup hasn't been running or they don't have any available at all. So there's a number of different options. The toolkit provides you with some of those tools as well. So we can see a backup and restore. So because we actually took that, as we copied across, it took a restore point for us. We can actually see, or it's remove that one from us anyway, but we can see a backup that I've taken here previously this afternoon. So if I needed to roll back those changes, I can simply click on the restore button to go through, and it will restore a copy of that backup for us. I can also download a copy of the backup, so I can have a copy on my local machine, or I can take a fresh backup by simply hitting the backup button. What's probably, and this toolkit just gives you a nice simple way of doing this, but what I would recommend is looking at a plugin within your WordPress website to automate that process. So that's taking backups on a daily or weekly schedule for you. Things like Updraft Plus, which is a popular backup plugin, that will actually allow you to send it off to your Google Drive, Dropbox, and or a number of different external areas so that you've got a copy available at all times. So because we've restored this little demo that I took earlier, if I go back to the theme change I made now and just hit refresh, we can see it's gone back to the default there now. So it's a very easy way of just being able to go, before I do make a major change or before I do something, I'm just going to take a quick backup, or I can download a copy, and that will download a copy to my computer of your WordPress website. And that includes the database as well as all of the files. So the toolkit has all sorts of different options, obviously log files, password protection if you're doing development sort of work and want to sort of lock things out. Managing your WordPress cron. We only recommend this if there's an issue with your cron or your website isn't frequently visited. You can set it as a server level schedule. Hot link protection if you're really worried about other websites sort of stealing your images or directly linking to your website. So depending on what else is sort of required within your sort of WordPress website, from a security point of view, one of the tools they introduced recently is the ability to check the WordPress integrity. So when we've seen WordPress websites hacked, they sometimes leave a sneaky little backdoor or modify the WordPress core websites. So what we mean by WordPress core is essentially when you install WordPress out of the box, it's all of those files that are directly related to WordPress. So not the theme files, not the plugins, WordPress itself. So the little integrity check means we can just verify the checksums. So checksums are just basically a hash of the file, or an algorithm runs through, generates a unique string, and that unique string will always exist if the file is you know, exactly 100% the same. So it's gone through, it'll download a copy, and because I've run it previously, it had it sort of cached there and ran it quickly and verified that the core of WordPress actually matches what is hosted on WordPress.org. So say if it came up and said, hey, it's found 2 files that are different because your website's previously been hacked, you can actually hit reinstall WordPress core, and that will take a copy, again, download it from WordPress.org and push the copy of those files over the top of your WordPress core. So to replace those files that have been modified. So this is only obviously required if it came up with an issue there. So I'll just let that run, but basically it just downloads a copy all automatically for you. So you've just got a one-click install, and you can see it's reinstalled successfully, told us, you know, the latest WordPress 5.8.2, and just copied it over the top for us. And just to confirm, our WordPress website is still running there, nice and secure. So that's sort of the absolute, I guess, run through of the WordPress toolkit. 2 other quick things I just thought I'd run through in terms of Plesk that you can take advantage of if you've got Plesk available in your hosting control panel. So if I just come back to the main website, so Plesk have sort of been redesigning a number of things, and they've redone it again. But basically they've got this cleaned up view that looks like the WordPress toolkit now, so that everything's in a common sort of view, but there's a number of different areas. So you've got the main dashboard with all of these shortcuts. You've got the ability just to see some of the main WordPress tools, or open the main WordPress toolkit. Then got hosting related settings. So generally, obviously, you don't need to change a lot of these things, but if you do need to change some of the details, they're under here, if you've got email associated, and if you've got any other sort of apps that are available. But the one very, very quick one to run through, and obviously, as Nik sort of shared tonight, there's a number of different WordPress toolkits that are out there. So Plesk itself also has one built in. Now it's a very, very crude, rudimentary sort of toolkit that's available. So it's a good way to get started before you dive all the way into some of the more advanced sort of toolkits. Now, depending on your hosting environment, it may be limited by the number of keywords that you want to track, but it's got a number of tools that you might want to take advantage of that your mods and bits and pieces also, you know, don't necessarily gain access to. So one of the bits here is the log file analyzer. So what this will do is actually, if I hit scan now, it'll run a scan in the background, and sort of have a look at the log files to see, have there been any 404s? Has there been any error messages? And sort of, let us know if it's found any errors. So because this is obviously a test site, it's not going to find any sort of details here for us, but it's one way to do it. So I sort of, for our test website, just put a quick rank tracker in. And again, you can track against competitors and sort of run through details. So it'll start to build up over time, your keyword trends, whether you're going up or down. Obviously, I just created a basic coffee sort of cut and paste from Wikipedia just as a test, and just sort of showed you that I can compare it to Merlot, Campo coffee sort of thing. So I compare just coffee origin, coffee subscription, just like you would for normal sort of keyword analysis. So you've got some of this ability built into Plesk where you can start to analyze some of the SEO bits. As you get further down, there's then the ability to further expand and sort of pay for, and it's quite cheap sort of thing. It's only a couple of dollars to expand that out for further sort of tools there as well. Okay, so I've missed a few questions in chat, but certainly feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions.
All right, there's one question in here, Tim, from Victoria. Is this setup available only if you're using Kinetics for your WordPress hosting?
No, so it was originally within Plesk-based hosting environments only. So Plesk has somewhere between about 30 to 40% of the general sort of hosting market. Most of it is within cPanel, and believe it or not, they're both owned by the same company now. So of course they've ported the WordPress Toolkit over to cPanel now as well. So a number of other Australian hosts, US hosts, they all use cPanel, for example. So this WordPress Toolkit is available through a lot of different hosting environments now. If they're using cPanel and it's not available, it may be worth looking at the plan you're on, because it may be an additional add-on option.
Awesome. Hopefully that answers your question there, Victoria. We've got a hand up here from Cameron. Unmute yourself, mate, and ask away.
Hey, Tim.
Good evening.
I'm just wondering, how do you turn the emails off in WordPress Toolkit?
Okay, so WordPress, so what Cameron's asking is WordPress the toolkit will actually send you out an email to let you know that you've got plugins out of date. Some of this can be good, some of this can be just noise. So if you're familiar with WordFence, for example, they can also, which is a security plugin for WordPress, sometimes too many emails means you ignore all of them, which ends up being a bad thing. So just to show Cameron through, I'm just going to have to drop back to an administrator level on Plesk itself. And within our tools and settings, basically we've got the option to edit our notifications, if I can remember where notifications hide. So within here, there's just the various different options, whether I want to send, and there's 3 columns: to administrator, to a reseller, or to a customer. And so we can turn off various different, your WordPress application has updates. So generally out of the box, it's ticked for customers. If you're managing WordPress, so you've got your own server with Plesk installed, and you don't want customers to get these emails because, hey, I'm managing this, you can simply just turn the notification off and you won't get any of those sent through at all.
Is there any way to turn it off if you are like on, say, shared hosting? So obviously doesn't have that sort of permission.
It's in the process at the moment. So we're requesting that because we'd rather people have meaningful error messages or meaningful messages to action versus, that their plugin is 1 day out of date, for example.
Cool.
Excellent. Any other questions here? this is your one opportunity with someone who is working on the hosting side of things. Scott, Victoria. So unmute yourself and ask away.
So I'm not a developer, a web developer, so this is a little bit beyond me, but I've dealt with cPanels before with GoDaddy hosting. I thought the cPanel was something that was just part of GoDaddy. So is it something you can attach to any website and have cPanel hosting?
Yeah,
or
so
the Plesk, or Plesk, whatever Plesk is. I don't know what that is either.
Yeah, so Plesk is just basically the competitor, or used to be the competitor to cPanel, but basically now it's just an alternative way. So cPanel isn't anything unique to GoDaddy. GoDaddy are obviously one of the bigger hosting providers in the world. They're just one of the companies that run cPanel. So that look and feel is the same, and the tools are the same available for any other hosting environment running cPanel. So in Australia, for example, there's companies like Venture IP who run cPanel. So now this WordPress Toolkit is available to them as well. And if you're a customer of theirs, therefore available to you.
So what if you had an Amazon virtual server? Would you put a cPanel on that or a Plesk thing on that? Or
yeah, look, it comes down to how much you want to manage. So if you've got an Amazon sort of EC2 instance or the similar, if you're comfortable with hand editing configuration files and setting everything up manually, then that's fine. cPanel and Plesk aren't necessarily required. If you want to get this nice sort of web-based look and feel, then you can purchase a license to run on an Amazon instance as well. And of course, like most things with Amazon, you can actually pre-buy your instance with WordPress or cPanel, Plesk or cPanel pre-installed as well.
I don't know about that because I didn't actually set up the server myself, but I don't understand the server at all. But my understanding, if you've got a cPanel or Plesk, you can give people access to work on your site. Whereas at the moment, I'm trying to get people to fix my website, and I can give them admin rights to the WordPress site that is, it's not live yet, but if they need to see what plugins and things I've got to give them admin rights to Amazon, which of course I don't know even know how to do that. And I would be hesitant to do that anyway, to give them those kind of rights to my hosting platform. Whereas on cPanel, you can sort of give them access without them having access to your whole stuff.
Correct. Yeah. So it probably comes back to who set it up for you and what their intent there was. If you're wanting to give developers access, then it may be worth migrating it either to a new Amazon instance, if there's a reason to use Amazon, for example, and having the Plesk or cPanel pre-installed on there, or choosing a hosting environment that already has Plesk or cPanel, and therefore you can give that access to your developers.
That sounds too much for my pea brain to comprehend, but yeah, I kind of got what you mean, but it's I didn't set up the server on Amazon. The guy that was setting up the WordPress site set it up because he felt that at the time I can't remember who I was with. I've had so many hosting companies, I'm just sick to death of the whole lot of them. And I'm sick to death of redoing websites all the time because people screw it up on me all the time. So I just want to find someone that knows what the hell they're doing.
Yep, and completely understand. Because we obviously, as a hosting provider, I guess to toot our own horn, we do migrations for free. So we see all of the websites that you're describing, the setups where it's been handed to a business owner with no way to manage. And in some instances, no login details, no access at all. So it can be incredibly frustrating, but it would be worth looking at whether you want to change that hosting environment, and therefore, especially if you're paying for an Amazon instance that you may not require, there could be not only a more cost-effective option, but an easier to manage option with a different hosting provider, and they would do all of the work for you. So need to obviously give them access to Amazon while they copy stuff across. But outside of that, then you can sort of, delegate access to your developers, but not have to give them access to everything.
Could I keep the Amazon private server and just get somebody else to manage it for me? So, because I really don't know anything about it. So could I leave it on there, but pay someone to actually manage it on Amazon?
Yeah, there are companies that do that, but you've got to be prepared to pay for it. And what I mean by that is that some of them can be $100 to $300 a month, for example, for server management, because they're managing on somebody else's environment and they have to keep sort of details there. So it's possible, but sometimes the cost of that can be a lot higher than what people expect.
Okay.
So Tim, you would have people on your team that would be available to have conversations about, their website, their installations, and what sort of options are available, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've even got a dedicated migrations team. So we've just got a team that all they're doing is moving websites, and obviously to our platform, but they're working with AWS, they're working with cPanel, Plesk, all sorts of different hosting environments. So they can also, our sort of general team can also give you advice in terms of, how busy is your website? Do you actually need a server? Maybe you do need a server, and therefore what's equivalent as well.
Excellent. All right, what we'll do is we'll drop your website link into chat, so that if anyone did want to have a conversation or had any questions at all, best way is to just go through your website, Tim, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, as an Australian-based company, you can call us during business hours, and you get to chat to the team, and sort of run through your questions. Excellent.
Superb. Well, I think that's probably...
Can I ask one more question?
I was going to say exhausted our time for questions.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
You can sneak in with that very last one, Victoria, and then we can
the one question
run through the prize draw.
Well, the one question is, Tim, if you host things, do you have people that fix the websites, or is that a separate issue to what you do?
So we offer this, I guess, and again, coming back to the managed side, so we do updates to websites, but updating the plugins and the themes. So not necessarily content updates. So we don't do content changes. So if you're looking for people to manipulate your website because the menu is not right, the images aren't right, or you want them resized, that sort of thing, that's when we would refer you to a developer.
Okay.
So we just focus purely on the hosting, keep the website up, keep the website running, keep it secure.
Excellent. So, and look, feel free, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to give Kinetics a call, or to shoot through an email. They're really easy to get hold of. I often speak to, well, not often, but whenever I need to sort of catch up with someone there, very easy to catch up and get your questions answered. So, so thanks again, Tim, for your jumping in tonight, especially sort of last minute like you have. Hopefully people here have found it interesting and helpful. But yeah, as I say, there's more information there on the website. We do have now Kinetics has made it available an option there for people to have a look at it, or a trial. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I forgot to mention there at the end is that if you're looking to just have a play around with the WordPress Toolkit, if you just fill out on our contact form, and Nik sort of sent the link through to the main Kinetics website, if you just mention, tonight sort of thing, and just looking for a demo, we can set up like one of our demo sort of websites where you can log in, have a play, and sort of see how it all works. So you can see how the toolkit works, and therefore, not even have to move your website or break your own website.
Awesome, excellent. So yeah, so that's a good opportunity to go and test out some of the tools yourself without necessarily breaking your own site or sort of upsetting that as well. And we do have a prize draw for tonight as well too. So do you want to unshare your screen there, Tim, and then tell us about the prize that you've got available for us tonight?
Yes, so Jamin has generously donated as a prize for tonight, is basically for obviously if you win, but basically 12 months worth of managed or sort of the WordPress hosting all for free. So you'll get access, obviously, you know, to hosting on our environment. We take care of all the migration across for you, and you don't pay anything until this time next year.
Awesome. What's that worth?
So it's worth up to $800 basically. So yeah, just depending on your requirements for the website, sort of the team will sort of go through and run through that sort of detail. And yeah, we provide that 12 months for free.
Awesome. So full 12 months. Awesome. So anyone interested in that at all? If you're not, we won't bother drawing it. All right. Yeah, there's a few hands there. Excellent. Perfect. All right. Well, we do have a special way of drawing it as ever. We've got the wheel of names with everybody's name in it. And remember, you have to be here to win. So we've got all your names there. So let's spin the wheel and give us a drum roll. And our lucky winner is, looks like Glenn Goodman. You still on the line here, Glenn? Let's see if he's still here. I just heard someone drop out sort of just as we were spinning that. There we go. No, Glenn is in fact here. Not sure whether he's eating his dinner or he's on the way home in the car, or he's left it on and sort of in the hope of just winning the prize. But if that was his strategy, he's just won the prize. Excellent. So what we'll do is we'll grab your details, Glenn. We'll shoot them through to Tim, and then you guys can make contact and organise that that prize. So congratulations for that. All right. Let's bring us back here. That's a wrap for another evening. Tonight was it was really all about WordPress, because I know so many people have a WordPress site. Sounds like there's probably call for another session on WordPress or WordPress related things as well too. So if you are looking for some specific help or some areas that you think that might be helpful, just drop me a message in Messenger or on Business Owners Smashing It Online Facebook page. Just make a request and give us a question on what it is that you want to have covered, and more than happy to either pull together a session on, or we'll find someone that is an expert in that particular area there. As well. So obviously I think Victoria mentioned Elementor, so that there is probably about 16 sessions, but we can certainly do a session on that there, ready to get sort of someone going on that as well too. So there's a topic if you're interested in it. So that's a wrap for tonight. Thanks everyone for coming along tonight, and hopefully you've found it of good value. Thanks also to Tim for spending his evening with us tonight as well too. So let's give Tim a big sort of round of virtual applause. Excellent. And so we'll be back again next week. So it'll be on Tuesday next week. So it was only on Wednesday tonight because we had something else happening on Tuesday. So it will be Tuesday next week. Mark it in your diary. And in fact, if you do want to register for it today, the link is now in chat. You can click on it and have a look at it. If you want to watch this again, this will be up on YouTube tomorrow. So tomorrow afternoon, it'll be up there on YouTube. So the best way to find it is the link is in chat now at the moment as well. So you can click on the link, go and click the subscribe button. Once you've clicked the subscribe button, a little bell will appear. If you click the bell, that will then ensure that you get an email as soon as the video is uploaded to YouTube. So that's a wrap for this evening. Thanks for coming along, and look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a good night.
No